Okay, so today I want to talk about a quick tip on how you can choose a strong password and how to choose one that's also not only strong but easy to remember. And then first, before I go over that, I'm going to tell you why this is so important. Facebook stored millions of passwords, actually hundreds of millions of user passwords in plain text. Now, why would they do that? Well, I believe it was for something that could link data points to identify double accounts and also to identify accounts on other systems. We would have to go back to the Prism revelations to see how this was used. So there are pieces of software out there, kind of like Maltego, where you can link data points together, and that allows you to identify people that are sharing the same information. So this just emphasizes the importance of compartmentalizing information. As I've told you guys in the past, if you for each account you should have a completely different identity, a completely different compartmentalized person that would meet each account. You compartmentalize that stuff as much as you can, from using different operating systems to different browsers to just using completely different identifying information, birthdays, of course, because each piece of data becomes a form of fingerprint, and each of these pieces of data can easily be searched and linked to other accounts across the internet. So, this is also used to help identify duplicate accounts. But what we're worried about here is privacy. But it also helps to take a look at how different systems identify somebody who makes multiple accounts. Some systems don't want you to have multiple accounts. And once they've identified you, everything that you type or do on that other account or social media is then stored in a database linking you to that other account. Certain things you may not want to share with the world. So this is why compartmentalization, as I've mentioned in the past, is so important. We're going to now talk about how to make these passwords. Uh, Here I've set up a simple set of two usernames on my system, and I'm going to compare them and tell you one trick you can use to create passwords is to use an acronym, a sentence using numbers and symbols that you can remember, and then turn that into an acronym. So here I have used the example of a horrible password, ABC123, and then a strong password that uses an acronym. So this is what we would do to choose a password. If you want something you don't have to write down because you may not trust people who may have access to your paper or whatever in your office. So you may want to keep it in your head. But as I mentioned, it's very important to use different passwords for each account you use. As I mentioned, this can be used like a fingerprint to identify you, because a password is as unique as your own DNA in some cases. And a password can tell a lot about somebody, but it can also identify exactly who they are. Very easy to do if you have access to the databases, and as you noticed, I showed you Facebook was storing it in plain text. The only real reason to do that is to cross-identify someone, and also on other accounts you may own. Say you use the same for Facebook and your email. Well, there you go. It's already compromised. It would take a Facebook employee 1 second to log in. So we're going to test these two accounts, and as I mentioned, the trick I'm mentioning is use an acronym using numbers, and what we've used here is a simple sentence that is easy to remember, and the password would be: reality is a strange thing. Jack owns 4 dogs in his big farm at 20121, which is a Milan, Italy zip code. So that turns into the acronym capital RIAST, J, capital J for Jack, it's a name, O, 4DIHBFA20121. And as we can tell, it's something that would take a password cracker a very long time, if at all possible, many years to crack. But on the other hand, the ABC123 will not take a long time. So we're going to test that out using John the Ripper real fast, and we're going to try and crack both these passwords and see what happens, see which one gets cracked first. So I'm going to open up John the Ripper because I feel it's important to demonstrate these things to help people understand privacy better. So I'm going to crack the password file now. Okay, already cracked the test user account. As you can see, it has only cracked that one password so far. As you can see, it cracked the test user, the weak password we used as an example, ABC123. I'm not going to bother trying to crack the other one. As I mentioned, it would take years to crack, but it is important to basically use something like a technique to create a password, like an acronym, using numbers and characters. This way, you have a unique password. You could make an acronym that reminds you of each account, some way you can relate it, something that you can keep in your head, or you can even write down the acronym if you feel safe doing so. So that was just a trick I had for you guys on how you can make a strong password that is easy to remember and would not be crackable. And also wanted to go over that fact that Facebook and several other large companies, in fact Germany, also put out a imperative that certain companies had to store passwords in plain text. I think it's pretty obvious what they're doing here. They're trying to cross-reference and identify users across different accounts and platforms. So you can see how it's important to have a strong password and how important it is to compartmentalize yourself, how important it is to find a technique that works for you. You can use a password generator, or you can use this little trick I just showed you. And that's what I got today for this, guys, and I hope you found it useful. Please like, share, and subscribe the video, and I'll be back later with more on how you can protect your privacy.